Hello out there and welcome. My name is Sharon Froshin. I am the Chief Operating Officer of the Discover Your Path U platform, where we believe that every life can teach and everyone can grow. To that end, I am also the host of this show, The Connection Sessions, where we bring together marketers, practitioners, entrepreneurs, artists, spiritualists, mentors, and students in an effort to connect to community, learn from each other, and grow. Today, I have with me somebody who, had me rolling before we came live, someone with an incredible sense of humor, and her tagline is, handle the chaos, keep the sanity. And I just think that's such an amazing tagline, Sherri, and I'm so happy to have you on the show today, and I'm hoping that you might just be willing to share with us, how did you come to life coaching, and how did you come to the niche, the divorced moms coach?
Well, I feel like I've been a natural teacher. My former life, I was a real estate agent, and I ended up, I ended up training. I'm doing role play sessions, doing tech training. I was the director of business development and technical training for a local Remax franchise. So I just love teaching, and I love learning. I'm a lifetime learner. And I found that a lot of what I was talking to people about was how to handle conflict, how to be brave, how to overcome your fear of speaking, how to bring up subjects that are difficult, that kind of stuff. And coaching people through not just business type things, but, somebody would come and say, my husband is doing this, what would you do? And so I kind of fell into coaching. I did get a life coaching certification back in January or February. I can't remember exactly when, but I've pretty much been coaching for the better part of 20 years. Wow. It's just not as not as an actual life coach, but it's just something I tell people that in my former life, I must have been like a priest or a bartender, because I have one of those faces that people are like, I have a problem, maybe she can help me. I mean, I don't know. And for me, the divorced moms coaching, I'm a mom. I've been married and divorced, and I am remarried. And my older children are, I've got 3 teenagers, and I know, well, altogether there are 6 kids that run around this house. So,
sweet baby Jesus.
Yeah, I'm qualified on the mom part. And I know that when I got divorced, if it hadn't been for some very good friends, walking me through certain aspects of it, I think I would have lost my mind. And not everyone has that. And the downside of me using my friends as my coaches and therapists is that most of those friends I don't have anymore. It's just, it's a side effect of too much emotional trauma. I think people are like, yeah, I'm going to check out. This is too crazy. So just knowing where I've been and the emotional roller coaster that I was on, and sometimes continue to be on, because, when you divorce someone and you don't have a great relationship and you've still got kids, occasionally you have to deal with that person. Yeah. And sometimes it can be not so great. And, I think for the most part, I've gotten myself under control, and I can, I can handle those interactions, and they don't traumatize me like they did, when I first got divorced. And I really want to help other divorced moms to be the best that they can be. And you cannot be the best you can be if you're on an emotional roller coaster. So
that is so true. That is
more is caught than taught.
Girl, you are just a font of amazing taglines. More is caught than...
Yeah, more is
How are you not in marketing? My God, that's awesome.
Oh, I was. I was in publishing before I was in real estate. So I managed a little magazine. So I was once upon a time, but that's not my cup of tea.
I
Not my
I love it. So one of the things that we were discussing earlier is a concept of mom guilt. And I think this is my sister is a mom, and obviously I have a mom who's a mom. I am not. I do not have children. That's a choice that I
okay.
personally made. But I witness just the heaviness of motherhood. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, like, women who are mothers seem to carry this mantle of I never do it right. And I'm just wondering if you'll share with us, as a mom, what it's like to deal with mom guilt and how you help clients that are struggling with that.
I think what's hard to grasp, and I see this so much, is that, we've, as adults, we've been there and we've made a lot of the mistakes that we watch our children make.
Hmm.
And we want to save them from the pain and frustration. But what a lot of moms don't understand is that kids have to make the mistakes
Yes.
in order to to have the learning experience, and you can't learn from other people's experiences, and that's true for everything. You can't, somebody can tell you about their skydiving experience, but until you actually experience it yourself, you're not going to understand the rush. And you can imagine, but you can't fully understand it. And so, you know we want to do the best that we can, and it hurts us to see our kids hurting, but that is a natural part of life. They have to go through the hard stuff
Yeah.
in order to have the experience, so that the next time that scenario comes around, they know how to deal with it. And and I see a lot of that with this generation of kids, is that the parents want to save them from so much
Yeah.
that the kids don't have the learning experience. Like, they don't have that real life experience. And so I don't feel guilty for letting my kids fail at things. I don't,
Wow.
I've got teenagers now. We have kids in the house from age 4 to 17, almost 18. And yeah, I know. And menopause and teenagers, no joke.
You're
So
killing
I
me.
just I just turned 40 on Friday, and like
Happy birthday.
thank you. Yeah, a couple of weeks before my 40th birthday, I was like, I had my first honest to God hot flash, and I posted about it on Facebook. And I'm like, this is some cruel joke that Mother Nature plays, because so
Oh, yes.
like, when your kids get to a certain age, they need to have their shit together, and they need to, understand that if they don't do their homework, they're gonna flunk out of school, and or they're not going to get into the college that they want to get into. Like, you've got to put the effort in. But I can't do your homework. I spent my time doing my homework.
Yeah.
I don't want to do my kids' homework. I don't want to do their school projects. I'm not that invested. Like, I would rather have a BC student who's well-rounded and actually has a life, than one that's like totally in the books or super stressed out. And that's something else too, navigating between the two households. Like, my ex-husband's household, they are really like into the extracurriculars and the got to make good grades and all of this kind of stuff. And, I'm the feelings, woo-woo, life happens, kind of.
Yeah.
So the poor things, they're like, they have to be little schizoids, going from one house to the other, because the philosophies are so different. But yeah, dealing with that kind of stuff too, that's really hard for divorced moms to let go of, because we are, and I don't know, what your sister would say about this, but we do the doctor's appointments and the, cleaning up the puke and the planning dinner and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when you get divorced and all of a sudden, like, there's a stepmother in the new house, or you don't agree with the way that dad is doing stuff, you got to let that go. You cannot control that. And that really messes with some moms, because they're like, oh my God, my poor baby. And it's sort of, they got to cut the cord a little sooner than they than they would like. And I'm not saying, don't pay attention to what's going on in the other house, but you can't control everything anymore.
That's so true. My sister is a lot like that. My sister runs an entire household. She's admin for her husband's construction business, plus she's a piano teacher. So she has children wandering in and out of the house at all times of the day for piano lessons. And you're right. I can imagine that going from being, the one that is really responsible for raising children to having no physical contact and no control over what happens while you don't have physical contact with your children would just be like mind-blowing. It would be something so hard to get over.
Yeah. And some people are better with it than others. Even, I like my alone time a lot. And even for me, when I had that first, weekend without them, I sat in my house and I was like, holy shit, what am I going to do with myself? Like, the silence felt really wrong. And then I kind of got used to it and started, you get to explore, like, who am I? And what do I actually like to do that doesn't have to do with wiping butts and noses? That's, and that might sound hard for people, but if you don't get out there and, make some friends and find out what it is that you like about life, then you're never going to get past that, that loneliness feeling. Like, and I don't know if I'll be suffering from empty nest syndrome, since I just look at it as, as my kids trickle out of the house, it'll just be more free time for me to do what I want to do.
I think that's an easier way to experience it than being like, oh my God, my baby's gone.
Yeah. And I've done what I can. Hopefully I have instilled some good values and some, the ability to think for themselves, which I think is huge. Like, not just consume what the media tells you to consume, like question stuff. Like, how does that feel to you? And if it doesn't feel right, then do something about it.
That's very true. And I like the way that you are bringing a fact of life coaching into your parenting, which is just like we can't have experiences that change our clients' lives, our children can't either. It's something that they do need to have for themselves. And I think for life coaches, often we will, counsel or be that place where somebody gets to come and talk to us. And then when they make a choice that is contrary to what we thought they were going to make as a result of that session and come back, having created a big mess, we almost own it. Like, it's something that we did, but every human being is a sentient, sovereign being that gets that opportunity to make mistakes. And that's really not something that mothers are taught. Even though I'm not one, it's an obvious contrary opinion to what you see in the media, where moms are supposed to shield and bubble wrap their kids and keep them from ever failing or having a problem. And if their kids do so, then it's a direct reflection on the mom.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm also a stepmother, and as a stepmother, it's even worse because okay, so I'm a mom and I love my children. I carried them each for 9 months and birthed them. And then you get into a relationship and these children have a mother that they have a relationship with, a really great relationship. And I fulfill the mother role in this house. And, a lot of stepmothers are resented for that. And so the relationship is really rocky. And then society says, well, you're a mother, you should love them like your own. Well, no, I didn't give birth to them. I care for them. I want them to be successful. But the way that I parent is not what they're used to. And so they don't like me for it. And therefore, it's not my job to parent them. And that bucks the system of society too. And, when I share that thought process with people, they really look at me like I am some,
Heartless,
heartless bitch. And, and that's the thing. They have two parents. And I my husband is never going to be free of unsolicited advice, and he just knows that. And I say whatever is on my mind. I'm much better about saying what's on my mind in the privacy of our bedroom after the children go to bed, and not just letting it fly out of my mouth. But sometimes
I just love you. Can I just say that? I just adore you. But keep going. You're my kind of lady.
But that was something really hard for me to reconcile as a divorced mom. Like, I'm a mom, so that means that I'm supposed to be the mom to everybody in this house, whether they like it or not. And the thing is that our kids cling to us and look to us, and they love us because half of our DNA is in them. Well, half of my DNA isn't in them, and they don't have to love me. And I can promise you, sometimes they wish that I would just spontaneously combust and never be heard from again. So
it is true, though. Society puts these completely unreasonable expectations on mom. Like, you're out in a store and you see some kid wandering around, and it's almost like you should pop a boob out and start breastfeeding that child because they seem lost. And it's like, that's not your child. You're not responsible for every little human being that you see just because you've had one of your own.
No. And just because I'm a mother and I have my own children doesn't mean that I love children. Like, I could never be a school teacher. Hats off to Saint school teachers, because I couldn't do it. I mean, they would run home crying every day because I don't have the bandwidth for that. I need people or alone time, but, talking about My Little Ponies and Dino Trucks and the latest boy drama at school, I've got what I can handle inside of my own house. And that's something else. There's all this mom judgment, like other moms judging.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I know shit's not perfect in your house. So, no stone throwing here. Not unless I get to throw them at your house too. Yeah. So I like to, the visualization is no throwing sand in the sandbox. If you can't play nice, you have to get out of the sandbox. So I
just fall more in love with you the further we get into this conversation. There's a maturity about you that is conveyed with such levity and laughter, but underlying it is an extreme amount of maturity, the ability to set boundaries, the ability to honor the boundaries of others, the ability to look past what's shoved down our throat in a societal arena and decide what's right for us. And let me give you a compliment. You don't see that very often, Sherri. So my hats are off to you.
And thank you for seeing my mission. I'm so tired of the good girl label, and this is what makes you a good mom, and this is what makes you a good wife. Being better than the person you were yesterday, that's what makes you a good person. Not, trying to do your best, that's what makes you a good person. It's not the house you live in or the car you drive or the clothes you wear or what school your kids go to, or God forbid, whether they win a sports game or make straight A's or, get into National Honor Society. You just need to make sure that you are on you're not on a roller coaster of emotions. You've got your shit together, and that you're setting a good example for your kids to be kind human beings. That's none of this. Yeah. And because I've seen some children who, are running around and they're being ugly and they're putting their peers down and being really judgmental. And I'm like, yep, I know what your house is like. And then you run into their parents somewhere and somebody doesn't get their order right at a restaurant and the mother is throwing a tantrum. And you're like, oh yeah, you are that kid's mom.
I see. Look at that.
Right.
One of my favorite things about my sister and the way that she parents is that my nephew is an absolute prodigy musically. He was playing the piano at 4. He can play Vivaldi at 8. He's just an absolute genius with music. And yet that is what she chooses to focus on above and beyond the talent is how do you treat other children? How do you treat other adults? How do you talk to me? How do you talk to your father? Are we able to have meaningful conversations? And she's very careful with how much media he consumes. She's very careful with the people that she exposes him to because she genuinely is interested in the quality of human being that he becomes before the musician that he becomes, even though she's a musician herself. So how would you advise a generation of moms who have been taught to raise achievers to rewind back to that place of raising a generation of just genuinely good human beings?
I think that raising a generation of kind human beings, in order to be kind, you have to be happy and fulfilled. It's very hard to be kind to other people. Hurt people. We hear that a lot in life coaching. And when a child isn't allowed to explore their own interests and a parent is living vicariously through them through sports or academics or whatever, that really sets the tone for a child that what they think, believe, and feel is second to what mom or dad thinks, believes, and feels.
Yeah.
And that's something that in a divorce situation is really hard to reconcile, because I am clearly not married to my first husband anymore because we have different thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and values.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them overlap, but the vast majority are different. And so I've always been the person who I want my children to think for themselves. I want my children to find something that they're passionate about and that they would do regardless of sleep and food and all of that kind of stuff. And my older son, when I think, and I'm sure every parent feels this way to some extent about their kids, but I think that he's brilliant. He's 17 and a half. And since he was a toddler, he would build these phenomenal things like with Legos and with these, I don't know, they were like magnetic, sort of like Tinker Toys, but they had magnetic balls instead. I can't remember what they're called. But he would build these amazing things. And by looking at the picture on the package and then, coming up with something that's even better, all on his own. But then, being forced into, he's not very sports oriented. Like, he likes it okay, but it's not his passion.
Okay.
And because my ex-husband was a star football player, that was, sports is kind of a big deal. And for me, I don't really care. Like, read your books, play with your Legos, and be happy. And then my daughter is very artistic. She can draw, she can sing, she can dance. And then my younger son is just, you give him a ball and he can excel at any sport that you put him in. And I think recognizing that all of your children are different, yes, and there's a very good possibility your children are going to be completely different from you, and embracing that and giving them the space to be who they are. And not, I think a lot of parents worry about things and they're so, they're so focused on making sure that their kid is safe that they don't create a space where their child can come and talk to them. And if they do come and talk to them about something that's hard, they, pass judgment, or they want to give advice, or they want to tell them, they want to give them a how-to. I mean, my kids have come to me with stuff that's really uncomfortable. And I listen, and I try to keep my mouth shut as much as I possibly can and just say, well, the consequences of your actions could be, so whatever you're doing, just, keep that in mind. I just, you make your own choices. Hopefully I've given you the tools to make good choices, but teenagers are idiots, and they're at that time in their life. And I do I study a lot about brain chemicals
Yeah.
and how how your neural pathways are created and all of that kind of stuff. And going through puberty really does make kids stupid. And because all they're focused on, like okay. So puberty is the time in most mammals' lives when they're kicked out of the herd to like go make their own way and do their own thing. But as human beings, we don't do that. We keep our kids until like we kick them out to go to college or get in the military or whatever. And all they're focused on when they hit puberty is like procreation and finding a mate and finding a community and making connections with people that are outside of their family unit. And I think parents freak out about that because they're like, oh my God, my baby. And I'm like, okay, it's normal. That's your brain is focused on survival and continuing your DNA, and it's completely normal. I don't have to like it. And and I don't particularly, but it's just it's a fact of life. And understanding that your brain does crazy stuff at different parts at different times in your life makes it a little easier to navigate the nuttiness.
That is such common sense. And I really wish that we could continue this conversation because I just love you. I just think you're amazing. But we're actually at the end of our half hour now.
I know that went so fast.
It always does, which is great and not so great depending on how into the conversation I am.
Okay, baby.
I just want to take a minute to recognize some of the viewers that I see on our screen. Becky Stokes, Ashley Benson, Ed Keating, Andrea Hendren, who's our Chief Spiritual Officer. Thank you guys for joining us for this chat. And Sherri, I hope that we get to know each other better because I just genuinely like you as a human being. You are somebody that I just feel energetically drawn to. And thank you so much for being on this show and sharing some what is unfortunately uncommon wisdom in today's world. And I appreciate that. So thank you. If you come by and catch this video after we're no longer live, drop us a hashtag replay. Let us know that you are here. Let us engage with you. And if you heard something that Sherri said that sounds like some wisdom, some advice that you could use, if you're a divorced mom who's struggling, trying to figure out exactly how to handle the chaos and keep the sanity, all of Sherri's contact information is in this live. Hook up with her, get some advice from her, hire her, let her help you get through what I can only imagine is an extremely difficult period in a person's life. So thank you again, Sherri, for being here. And if you're interested in joining a community where the community is the guru and every life can teach, feel free to go over to DiscoverYourPathU.com, become a member. Let us help you. Let us be there for you. Let us create a community with you in which we all decide what is right, what is wrong, and how to grow and change together. So as always, guys, I love you, and we'll see you on Monday of next week. Bye.
Thank you.
My pleasure.